Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. I'm Kavya Rai, Assistant Program Manager for the Postgraduate Program in Public Policy, and I will be your host for today. In 1999, during the Kargil War, India asked the US for GPS data to track Pakistan's movement. The request was denied. That moment led to the birth of NavIC, India's mission to never rely on borrowed signals again. But as of March 2026, NavIC is in a state of operational collapse. With only 3 functional satellites left, the system can no longer tell you where you are. Today, we're joined by Dr. Nithiyanandam, Head of Geospatial Research here at Takshashila, to unpack why the heart of our satellites, the atomic clocks, keep failing and why this is a crisis not just for ISRO, but for every truck, train, and smartphone in India. Thank you, Nithya, for joining us.
Thank you, Kavya, for having me today.
Okay, Nithya, you've mentioned that 3 is not enough. For our listeners, why does losing that 4th satellite mean the whole system stops working for navigation?
Yeah, it is slightly different compared to Earth observation satellites. Many of us are quite familiar with Earth observation satellites. Earth observation satellite means if you send one satellite, that can still capture, whatever images of the ground from space. But then navigation satellites works in a slightly different context. It works based on, trilateration, basically fixing geometry from space. For which one needs minimum of 4 satellites to fix position and also the altitude in an accurate way. And this accuracy improves as long as you have more number of satellites in your kitty. Now, when you are left with 3, you can give a broad positional information and not the accurate information of location as well as elevations also. And this restricts the utilization for various things, including military and other usages. So otherwise, in other terms, this 4 is again, even if we say 4 is again a number where you need to run it in a minimum threshold and it can work with an accuracy to an extent in some parts of India at a particular time, not every time. So for functional navigation system, you need full spectrum, or even if you look at other countries, they go with more number of satellites than the actual desired ones.
Okay, so you're saying it's a minimum to have 4 satellites,
right?
So that you get the accurate data.
Yeah.
So what would you say is an ideal number given how vast our country is?
So it's like this. If you have a GPS receiver on your phone, maybe you guys can also experiment just by installing GPS or GNSS apps on your phone, which actually connects to the GPS receiver in your phone, and it shows how many satellites that you're giving signal to your phone at a particular time. So it's ideally how much signal that you're receiving from various satellites. It puts in a plot kind of thing where you can see in circles, the center of the circle is you. And you can see how many satellites above your head are, connected to your mobile phone. It's a quite interesting thing. Anybody can experiment it with free apps. But if you look at it, it requires, satellites to be spread it out. So most of the time you won't get it, the number of satellites that you needed. If you ask me the desired one, it depends on how the constellation was built. Right? The constellation were built based out of, sun synchronous satellites only. Then you can look at NavIC for say, which is initially having 7 satellites constellation. So the ideal one is 7. And anything above 7 will definitely improve its accuracy to a greater extent. And NavIC is a combination of, geostationary and also inclined orbits also. So it is more like a unique system which can work only for this region, which is, let's say, 1,500 kilometers from our borders also. But you cannot compare it with global navigation systems like GPS or Galileo or Chinese Baidu, because those are the things which can work for entire globe. But NavIC, for its requirement, it requires minimum of 7 satellites in the first phase. And then you can improve it. We have been hearing like people are talking about its expansion plan where you can put more satellites in orbit so that its accuracy can be improved. Its coverages in different parts of India in various time period can be improved, and it can be extended even beyond the current area of interest also.
Okay. So, coming to the atomic clocks that are there in these satellites, so we have seen that there is a recurring pattern of these Swiss-made atomic clocks that are used in the IRNSS fleet. So, why has this specific component become NavIC's the problem in NavIC?
So, atomic clocks are required for precise time measurements. Basically, precision timing. This navigation system offers something called PNT, positioning, navigation, and timing. So, the atomic clocks gives a precise timing. Where these atomic clocks were, procured from a Swiss-based company, not just India. If you can look at other organizations also procured, like China is also procured from the same organization, same company, and European Space Agency also procured it from the same place. But and the failure is again common across all three agencies as well. But people have taken some steps to overcome it. The failure means each satellite carries 3 atomic clocks. It's not one. And the failure of system is only realized when all three fails. So you can say backup of backup, kind of 3 systems, 3 clocks puts up in one satellite. And then entire satellite declared as complete malfunction of atomic clocks only when all three fails.
Okay.
So in our state, all three got failed in this satellites, which we declared it as one which is retired after 10 years of service and so on.
Okay. So, but now we have finally built an indigenous rubidium clock on the NVS-01, right? So now can we say that the technology now is solved, or are we just facing like a launch backlog problem at the
So
moment?
NVS-01, as you said, is a second generation navigation satellites in the IRNSS kitty. We have been using term IRNSS and NavIC, right?
Yes.
So listeners, don't confuse yourself, both are same. Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System was the first one, and then NavIC was given a name later to the same.
Right.
So going back to your question of whether the problem is solved, it looks like the problem is solved. SAC Ahmedabad, the Space Application Center, has built this clock indigenously, and they claim that it works well and it can work beyond the operational requirement of 10 plus years. And now the question is, we basically need to scale it up, right? If we scale it up and then if we make it as per our requirements, then this problem can be solved. But then it's not just about atomic clocks. There is a requirement to look at it as an ecosystem issue. So probably you need to look at multiple things associated to it. One critical thing is a launch failure, right?
Okay.
So to put this in orbit at at particular places of a requirement, you need launching vehicles also. We had couple of failures in the past, so which also trouble this. And it is not just like sending 100 satellites through one rocket. It is not that way.
Okay.
You need to put precisely in different places in space so that it can work as an appropriate geometrical. It can create an appropriate ecosystem where you can fix the locations on ground. So the launch is also important. The various components are also important. Satellite manufacturing also need to happen in a equally faster rate so that these clocks can be deployed on time. But yes, India has figured out indigenously, like other countries also figured out. China has expelled it. They have done it in a much quicker way by creating indigenous replacement for it. And also what they have done is they've also scaled it up very fast. That is something where we got stuck at this moment. European Space Agency interestingly carried out in a different way. So they still worked with the same Swiss company, but then they tied up with one more company to fix this issue so that the problem get resolved, and they are still continuing with their same satellite atomic clocks. Now, the clock is not an issue as per the the performance, whatever we have whatever I put out in open domain. The clocks seems to be functioning well, and it is good for India's requirement. The thing need to be done is to scale that up so that people can use it.
Okay, so right now our the focus should be to scale up our production of these atomic
Right,
clocks.
if our atomic clock is functioning well.
Okay. So just to zoom out a little bit and to look at what this means for like the economy or people in general. So most Indians like use Google Maps, I'm sure, and they don't realize that it's NavIC is being used for that, right? So if NavIC fails, can you explain to us a little about how this impacts the Indian economy?
So I wanted to correct you a bit.
Okay.
Here, if you look at the navigation maps that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Whether it can be Google, whether it can be Map My India, Mapbox, any navigation application that you talk about, that's basically runs with the help of, there's two components here. One is your base map.
Okay.
Right? The base map means the map that you're looking at.
Hmm.
But your location on the map is moving around.
Yes.
Just because the location of yours is fed through your GNSS system. We call this as Global Navigation Satellite Systems. So IRNSS is one, GPS is another one, GLONASS is another one, Baidu is another one, Galileo is another one.
Got it.
Now, our phones are capable of having more than one, right? So our phones are carrying receivers from GNSS, multiple GNSS systems, including GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, Baidu, and so on.
Okay.
Chinese phones definitely carry Baidu, but then you can even see the Japanese one also with your latest mobile phones. So you have more than one navigation system contributes to your navigation. Okay. Which eventually puts you in a more precise location compared to your, phones of your parents in the past.
Okay.
But this precise location is good when a system is designed to work together based on multiple inputs, and this service we call it as augmented service. Like for say, even with the current state, if IRNSS works with GPS, it can still provide service, and that is augmented service. And then you can find, still use precise information in terms of location and night, because it is taking support from the GPS system. Right. It is not just the three functional satellites. You are still taking support from others. Whereas if an application is solely dependent on IRNSS based chips, let's assume like if a drone is only made out of IRNSS chip in order to keep it, independent of foreign navigation systems. If a drone is completely made by an Indian chip and it is made out of made suitable for IRNSS receiver, then the problem arises. Right? And the drone cannot go to the place that you wanted. But of course, there are many other technologies today exist where you can use it for precise targeting and so on. But then the primary objective of having indigenous navigation system fails. Right. What is more dependent on IRNSS chips? Locomotives, right?
Okay.
And our fleet, the vehicles on road. The commercial vehicles are mandated to have IRNSS chips. Now, I really don't know in this front whether those are solely made out of IRNSS ones or it is made out of
any
other supporting systems also.
Right.
If it is solely made out of IRNS system, which was our original ambition, then the problem arises now. Right. And we should remember we were even targeting for an automated toll collection system, moving away from the FASTags also. In that case, it was more like the moment you pass through the particular area, it's not necessarily a toll plaza. It can be just marked area or a border where the toll has to be collected. It detects the toll in the back end. The two things required: one is the access to your bank account. Second is your precise location information. Those require something called OBD. There's something called OBD, onboard devices.
Okay.
Onboard devices in vehicle generally has this, navigation unit, navigation receiver, and the other systems to connect to your bank account. So basically, that helps to detect the tolls on the flash. Now, imagine if the OBD is only based out of NavIC, then the precise toll collection also fails.
Right.
So there is a necessity to fix this, as we are seeing from toll to railways to fleet management on road, navigation, especially fishermen who are working in crucial borders, especially let's say India-Sri Lanka borders. And ISRO has made a lot of devices to support them in terms of identifying potential fishing areas, and also for identifying boundaries. A couple of devices were built and handed over to thousands of fishermen. It is again will be in trouble if your location information is incorrect. So all this, we know that it is made, Indian chips are part of it, but then the question is whether those are solely part of Indian chips or Indian navigation system chips, or it is having capability to incorporate others, then it is a different scenario.
Okay. So it is crucial for us. While we don't know the extent at which it's being deployed across all our systems, it is crucial, and it's imminent that we have to fix
Yeah.
these loopholes. So, in one of your recent opinion pieces that you've written, you said that the Indian geospatial market is headed for a 1 lakh crore valuation. So, and now we've spoken about all these different areas that it's being used. So, can we reach this our target by using borrowed signals from GPS or Russia's GLONASS or China's Baidu?
See, the question is, borrowed signal is an interesting phrase here. But then what we actually wanted to see is utilization of these navigation systems, especially the precise location information in various applications. Before we dive into India, probably I'll quote an example from China. The Chinese geospatial industry is much, much bigger than Indian. And the majority of that contribution in terms of revenue for them comes from the navigation system, a functional positioning and navigation system. So that is what we aimed to. And here, the recent deliberation indicates that we are moving towards 1 lakh crore economy driven by geospatial technologies.
Okay.
This is kind of an estimate, right? We don't know the exact one, but this is a kind of estimated impact. Why geospatial is again dependent on navigation system? It is part of the entire geospatial ecosystem. Many of your applications, forget about larger geospatial tech. Look at your mobile phone. How many apps you can run without giving access to location information? At times you may wonder whether do we really need to give location information to these apps? See, if it is a food app, if it is a dating app, if it is a shopping app, then whatever it is, e-commerce app, this is fine. But if you are doing let's say a mobile scanner, PDF scanner kind of thing, do you need to give location access to it? In terms of security of an app, saying like, if this app is used in a different place, then it creates a security threat, then location information is asked. But almost every app requires this precise location information, because location information is again an important component of your mobile phone data, right? So that is dependent on it. So what in geospatial sector other than this dependent on the location information? Your precision farming. And these days the tax collection system in many of the cities requires precise location of the houses. A couple of municipalities have inducted GPS attached meters to collect information on this water bills also. So look at it in this way: your utility tax collection, your utility revenues are again dependent on this precise coordinate. In reality, the houses are placed very, very much close to each other, right? In an urban dense environment. And if your precise coordinate is missing out here, and then it is malfunction, and you will definitely get coordinate even whether you have 3 satellites or 4 satellites, doesn't matter. But the location will be off, right? In that case, your objective fails, right? That will definitely take an impact on the larger ecosystem. And the problem is geospatial policy, which was deliberated a couple of years ago, has specified deliberated specific timelines to achieve certain things. Right, by 2025 you need to achieve, 2035 you need to achieve certain things, for which the accurate, independent, functional navigation system is a crucial thing. That is why I fear it may get delayed because of this also, in addition to the other complexity it already has. Right? But if you notice there's another large subject we can discuss for hours is about spoofing. If you really wanted to see how distorted GPS signal will change things on ground, or at least on map, you can see it through what's happening in Strait of Hormuz, right? The ships also transmits its location and other information. But if you look at a couple of maps, those are freely available as well. The ship data is also shown over the shore. Like, the ship's supposed to be on water. You can see it on land area. It's just because, the position information is getting distorted because of spoofing incidents happening over there. Spoofing is like, it is not blocking GPS signals or GNSS signal. It is actually giving a false signal to it. This is more interesting. You would have heard this before when the planes were diverted because of this. There was large disruption to civil aviation also. This is because of the spoofing incidents which are targeting drones, right? But then that is not discriminate between the drones and planes, because the system being used over here is in navigation units, right? So that also got affected. So wherever you are seeing conflicts around the world, you can see the spoofing incidents quite actively deployed because of the usage of drones in these areas for this
during this
conflicts.
Okay. So you brought up China's Baidu system. So just a few numbers. So they have over 50 satellites are being used by 150 countries across the world. So I just want to see if you can draw a comparison. So where does India stand in when compared to, say, China?
See, fundamentally, two systems are slightly different. One is for regional system, another one is for the global utilization. So IRNSS has never been a comparison to GPS or Baidu system, which are meant to support services across the globe. Whereas IRNSS is meant to support Indian region and also, let's say, 1,500 kilometers from our border. Right? So our target area is small, for which we need certain number of satellites to get coverage. Even as I said earlier, when it was functioning well, it was well documented that the signals were good. There is something called dilution of precision. Okay, so dilution of precision, what we call in our our field, is like if you stand in a particular place, you need, as I told you earlier, you need to have minimum of 3 to 4 satellite signals to be received on your phone.
Yes,
but that needs to be spreaded up in all direction.
Right.
If it is spreaded up, let's say if you talk about 180 degree above your head, if it is spreaded out in 3 different directions, the dilution of precision is good. But if it's all oriented, if 3 satellites are clubbed together, the minimum 4 satellites are there, minimum 5 satellites are there. But if it is exist on one side of your horizon, then it is poor dilution of precision. The geometry is not so good compared to when it is spread up.
Okay.
So even when it was functional, the dilution of precision was so good in southern parts of India. It was not so good in northern parts of India. Specifically, the challenges were there. The document indicates the challenges are there in the higher altitude areas. Right. And definitely the way to solve it is to bring more and more satellite on board so that it can give a complete coverage throughout the diurnal cycle, that is throughout all 24 hours. Right.
Okay.
So otherwise, it will give good signal in some parts of India or some areas of our interest for a short time.
Okay.
But for
it's not a
fighting a war and for taking considering it as a reliable service, we definitely need 24-hour service, right? So that was missing, and then that's the long game. Still, we have to go very far.
Okay.
Compared to China's thing, right? If you look at the requirements, right, all these good navigation systems which are functional and which are dominating the world has more satellites than the requirements. Let's say 24 is required for GPS. They have 30 plus functional satellites. In China's case, again, 30 is required, and then you have 50 plus satellites.
Right.
Why it is required? It is quite common to see satellite getting failed for this purpose. So you always need to have a spare satellites for each of the satellites in the constellation.
Okay.
It's an expensive business. It's not a cheap one. So in that case, we need to have more number of satellites also. And China could able to provide its service. They use couple of good technical things that we can also learn, and it's a good learning for other people who wants to build such navigation systems. So they claim that they are providing reliable service to different parts of the world where the business interest exists. The Belt and Road initiatives, which goes through multiple countries, where all this can make use of this navigation systems of them.
Right. Okay. Looking at ISRO now, so do you think ISRO is trying to do too much between Gaganyaan and their missions to the moon? Do you believe that NavIC has kind of taken a back seat, or what is your opinion?
So I really don't know what exactly happening within the system, but NavIC requires a special attention because it has equal number of stakeholders from civil and defense sector.
Okay.
So it's not just a civilian application. It's not just a military application. It has applications on both. In that case, I think it is to be looked at separately, not just as one of an thing that ISRO can do.
Yeah.
It requires a broader, focus and dedicated funding which requires to have a constellation. A dream is there, and then technicalities also exist. Now we have indigenous satellite clock for last couple of years, it exists. But then why, though we are aware that the satellites can fail, the biggest fear, as I stated in my opinion piece for the New Indian Express and in the Times of India once, among the three satellites exist, two are again from the first generation. Okay. So what I mean by first generation, there are a set of satellites launched in first phase, set of satellites launched in second phase. First generation satellites were expected to function to 10 years. So we have recently saw one which got failed.
Yes.
So now only two left. And out of two, one is working beyond their expected timeline, which means it's working close to 12 years, which can fail any time. The other one is nearing the 10 years lifetime because it is almost nearing 8 years of its post-launch. So then again, it became more fragile, right? Why are we leaving to this state? I really don't know what exactly the internal mechanism which stopped them or prevented them, whether it is mostly blamed to launch or it is left over to atomic clocks, or there are multiple things which stops them, proceeding on this plan. But I'm sure people who built it definitely know there is a requirement and that requirement has to be met on time.
Yeah.
Or is it left or taken it as an easy system to, leave it out as long as we have functional other navigation systems which helps and we can take an aided support from them? I don't know. But definitely it requires a focus, and like the other ambitious missions that we are having, and it has given a very good reputation and name to Indian Space Research Organization. This will also very crucial. This is also a crucial mission, and which will definitely bring a lot of revenue as well as the name to us. And it is very important given the current geopolitical situation around the world.
Right.
So let's hope ISRO comes back with a great announcement to fix this in next few years. As I'm saying, it's a job of next few years. It's not going to be fixed overnight and not going to be fixed immediately in 6 months. It requires a launch of several satellites in series and over a couple of years. So to become a functional satellite, and then it's not just stops by sending satellites. You need to create ecosystem for the receivers, and then proliferating into devices and so on. In one way, we are depending too much on these systems, and we are enforcing it on multiple applications. And the other way, on the other side, we are cutting it loose, and then we are not focusing much on it. Probably people need to be from other ministries also need to come together. Perhaps the required stakeholders need to come together, and then to make it happen. It should not be left only to ISRO, I believe.
Okay. So like you're saying, NavIC should be worked on across the field, and not just ISRO should not just be focusing on it. Okay. So thank you. That brings us to the end of our podcast. Thank you for breaking this issue down for us and showing us that there are a lot of high stakes involved in this. And now we're playing the long game. Like you said, we cannot expect NavIC to be fixed by the end of this year. There's a lot to be built. There are many satellites that need to be launched, and the back end has to be, the ecosystem has to be fixed. So we're now playing the long game. So thank you so much, Nitya, for that.
Thank you, Kavya.
And thank you for our listeners for tuning in. Applications are now open for the next cohort of the postgraduate program in public policy. So if you're interested, please do visit our website for more.
And you can always look at the 2 opinion pieces which are published on this topic. And if you're interested on geospatial technology, you can look at our expert capsule course, which will be offering very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitya.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @Takshashila INST or our website takshashila.org.in.